startups, how has travel and tourism performed, how can it take more advantage, how India as a destination can increase its outreach through technology. Deep, I'd like to know if we have done adequately in that area at all so far. It's not just about selling tickets and hotel rooms, but selling the destination that I'm referring to. Have we actually gone into that space yet as a country? And with all this conversation happening about startups, is there adequate startups happening in the travel tourism space? And when I refer to tourism, I'm referring to city guides, so much more that can happen by using pure technology to service visitors, whether it's cities or it's experiential travel or whatever. So that's Deep's domain this evening. Next to him is Mr. Patu Keswani. Patu is, you all know him as well as I do. I'm going to be requesting him not just to speak on hotel per se, but the entire hospitality gamut, which means a lot of the new segments that you have already entered in as Lemon Tree, your co-sharing spaces, experiential, second homes, anything else that you think hospitality, what's the roadmap that you think we can have? I'm also, not only I, but we are all concerned about sustainable business environment, sustainable ecosystems that can actually carry our businesses forward. In the area of hospitality also, there is this stigma that you carry of being luxury. How valid is that? How relevant you can make hospitality for the country as a whole? Mr. Kachru, I've requested him that I think very often we miss his exposure to tourism, right from his days in ITDC. He has been, comparatively speaking to many hoteliers, been closer to tourism. He's also presently on the board of Mata Vaishno Devi Shrine Board, and he's also been on the board of many state government on terms of the tourism development corporations. So I have requested KB to speak purely from a tourism perspective, not as a hotelier, but from a tourism perspective as to what is happening in the space and what could be a good roadmap for a viable tourism plan for India, for domestic and inbound, whatever. Sohail is master of all. I'm requesting him to speak on luxury. Idea being, how can India be a preferred luxury destination? How can domestics take to luxury? How does he define luxury? And has the meaning of luxury undergone some kind of a dramatic change in the last 12, 16 months? I'm not sure. I suspect it may have changed a bit. So with those few words, I'll start off with Deep and ask him to speak. These are standalone presentations, 10 to 12 minutes each, and after that, open to you for Q&As. Mr. Carter, your preference, would you like to be here or be seated?
Good evening, everyone. It's unusual to be here like this, especially to be masked and some not being masked, and not hug many people that I wanted to hug for sure. It seems very strange, but we are definitely in a better place than we were 6 months ago, 3 months ago, not 1 month ago. I think it's getting a little dicey right now. So I don't have a formal presentation, but I do have some points I put together. The gathering's very august, and I don't think there's much I'll say which you will not know. But still, I wanted to share a few observations around the sketch that Naveen gave us on technology, online, opportunities, etc. So I'll share a few thoughts. Firstly, I'll talk about online. As many of you know, online penetration has been rampant in some sectors. Not so long back, probably now slightly, maybe a decade ago, or maybe 12, 13 years ago, time flies. I remember making a statement at a similar forum in Hyderabad that majority of air tickets will be booked online very soon, and I got a lot of flack for that. Today, 66% of all air tickets in the country are booked online, and it's only going one way. It doesn't go back. Most of you don't care about air tickets, which is fine, but it's a precursor. Not many people know that about 15% of hotels are booked online today. And that number actually moves up appreciably when you talk about premium. Patu will share his experience, hopefully, about not only how much online has penetrated, but during the pandemic, as we've tried to come out of it, and successfully so, I think October, November, December gave a lot to cheer about, as did Jan. And, I think we'll get out of it. I'm a big believer that the worst is behind us. We are all optimists, I think, by definition, and we should only think positive. But I think chains like Lemon Tree and a lot of others, I don't know who's here from the Taj. I saw Zubin here, of course, but is there anyone here from the Taj? They definitely saw online impact. Okay. So I think the top 20 chains in the country, maybe 30 chains in the country, probably saw online, dare I say, come to the rescue. I stand validated. All of you are sitting out here. If you don't think online, and by online, I don't mean OTAs, I don't mean Make My Trip, I don't mean GoIBiBo. I meant the online sector. Who was delivering the goods during this time? I think there's been a big shift, a fundamental shift from offline to online, and it's not going to move in the other direction. It moves only on one way. Intercity and interstate bus probably doesn't mean much to many people. We own a brand called Red Bus, which is the market leader in that. More than 50% has moved online, and all state transport corporations now want to move online from something they never did. They didn't embrace this medium. It's got fully digitized. You can book a bus. And down south, those of you familiar with the southern states or in the west, it's not unusual for a well-heeled person, including many of us out here, to hop onto an overnight bus from close to their home or work in Bangalore and show up close to their home or work the next morning in Hyderabad or Chennai or wherever they're going, overnight, full flat, very comfortable, chose their seat, chose an alarm on the app on when to be woken up, knew where the route was, knew where they were going to stop. It's a very hassle-free travel versus, of course, as we know, getting to Bangalore airport and just, navigating around that. So a lot has moved online. Standalone holidays have started moving online. Early days, 5 to 10%. And anyway, what is a holiday? Very often a domestic holiday right now is just how do you get there and where do you stay. But the international holiday had started moving online. Even today, most of what we are selling for Dubai and for Maldives is purely online. The very interesting thing is not the quantity here, it's the qualitative nature. What I mean by that is completely touchless. No human touch. Even the visa done purely online. And that for me is music to my soul. So I just feel that a lot of that movement is going to continue. We should all embrace it. I think most of us embrace it. And then find opportunities around it rather than be in denial or be ostriches, I think, out here, because that's not changing, no matter how we look at it. Another COVID fallout, which I thought was very relevant to our space, is remote working became very efficient working. There was shock. There was shock for the first 1 or 2 months. I can tell you a lot of people didn't know what to do, including us, despite getting some warnings from China, getting warnings from Italy, Spain. We all believed India mein nahi hoga. India mein to बहुत hardy हैं, sturdy हैं, गर्मी बहुत है, 45 degrees temperature, यहाँ तो COVID होगा नहीं. Anyway, all of that happened. But the positives, and I really want to take away the positives, as Naveen, you rightfully said, we should look at what are the positives, what are the silver linings to this cloud. Well, we realized remote working can be very efficient working. So I think there's a massive opportunity out there for staycations, for alternate accommodation, for homestays, extended stays. And I'll talk a little bit more about that. Secondly, for us, the biggest cloud of the COVID, biggest silver lining of the COVID cloud was actually the fact that premium started to move online. Premium never moved online. Super premium and luxury, which Sohail will talk about and Patu will talk about as well, I'm sure, and Mr. Kachru. It was something which was still the hegemony of offline. That started moving online, and in a very appreciable manner. So the most expensive hotels in the country are now happily selling online, and maybe that's something I, again, hope is a one-way street. Coming to pure tech, I think pure tech or technology suffice to say, is going to be more omnipresent than before and is going to be more all-pervasive, if it was possible, than before. And I'll tell you why. The web check-in, which for many of us, when we took a flight, was something, it was obligatory, and you said, yeah, someone will do it for me. We all call someone, our corporate travel agent does it. Guess what? It became mandatory 100%. All of us have taken flights. I have taken 8 flights through lockdown, and I'm looking forward to 2 more this week. But I think that web check-in has actually showed us that's the right way to do it. That's the right way actually to avoid an unnecessary queue. Why not at the hotels? Yes, there's a government protocol today where you need to get various details, but why not digitize that completely? Why not do that through keyless entries? Some of you hotels have already done a really good job of that and definitely ahead of the curve. It comes from the West, but the hotels who embrace that first, I think, will be rewarded. No one wants to wait in that queue. That queue is actually the most pointless queue. It can easily be done remotely. Today, we only do it remotely for our VIP guests. Or we do it because we're a luxury hotel, we take them aside, we do that check-in for them in their room, in their suite, etc. We can do most of it we can do keyless entry. I think keyless entry is here to come. COVID accelerated again, I think for homestays, which maybe is not that relevant, but maybe it is. I know that Taj is with the Ama chain, Kapil's right here with his, path-breaking postcard hotels. I think that's a new way of looking at it. That's what people today want. But the IoT or the Internet of Things plays a huge role out there. Today, these units can be completely controlled by the Internet to help both sides. They help the customer a lot because, again, the check-in was seamless. Your Wi-Fi, if there's an issue, gets monitored from the back. If the temperature is not okay, you don't have to make a complaint. That gets done. And when you've left your room or when you've left your villa, that's when the cleaning services, etc. key in. You don't need to put up cards. You don't need to tell anything. Everything is very seamless. I think all of us have experienced that in the West. Today, it's happening here. Very simple devices connected to the main servers and telling us what to do. I think this is going to become a norm, and this is actually going to tell us a lot more than we want to know. It's also great, I think, for the management. Management, centralized cells, they can control so much more. In India, we typically feel we'll throw people at any problem because labor is cheap. Not any longer. Labor is not that cheap any longer if you want qualified, really good labor. Corporate travel used to say we'll always have an implant because implants are cheap. Guess what? The implant is also getting more expensive and the cost of that real estate is damn expensive. I think it's about time we start thinking like that and start leveraging technology for the best that we can. And the third segment, opportunities. I think opportunity is galore. Again, I think the fallout of COVID accelerated, whatever we want to call it. I spoke about workations and long stays. Everyone out here who's got resort-like properties, larger properties, where they offered a place where people can stay has seen longer stay windows. They have definitely seen shorter APs, I know, shorter advance purchase for sure, but longer stays. Because once people get there, and many times people have taken long drives to get there. The first trip I made, after a kind of a semi-work trip to Europe, my first trip I made was a drive to Kasauli, and I promised I will not do a road trip again in India, because we went through various things, and that time before the farmers thing, it took 9 hours to get there. You take 9 hours to get there, which should take 6 or 7 hours, you definitely want to spend an extra day or two. People are doing that today routinely. So I think there's a big opportunity around making it comfortable, making it longer, and probably having packages which work for a week long, 2 week long in certain places. People want to do that. People have the money, they want to do that. Independent villas and homes and somewhere in between. I don't know what you want to call it, but is it the Hometel? I remember hearing that first time from, I think, Ajay actually, from one of their brands. But I'm just talking about a place which feels like home but has the luxury of the hotel stay. And I think we've seen that cross paths, and maybe Postcard is a bit about that, maybe others are a bit about that. That is what I crave for today. I want the best of both. I definitely want the best of having my own space, ideally my own pool, my own garden, very comfortable, 1 or 2 staff who, even if they could be tested, great, and that's it, leave us alone. But guess what? Give me the polish, the spick and span, everything else that I want of a hotel that I'm used to, and you can charge me what you want. And I think that's a big opportunity in the making. Around that, I think there's an opportunity which is very offline. So I'm just getting into one offline thing, which is servicing these properties in hyper-local ways or local ways. Goa probably is the first place in India which has always had homestays. And today, best count, they might have even 10,000 homestays and growing. Who services them? That number could double, that number could triple. A lot of well-off people have their secondary homes either in Goa or up in the hills. They don't let them out for only one reason. Who's going to make sure that they're serviced well? Who's going to make sure the customers don't vandalize them? Today, there's a big opportunity for service organizations to move in, powered probably by technology, again with the IoT ways, to move in with cleaners, to move in with cooks, to move in with even catering services, with maids, etc. I think that time has come in India, and I think that's a massive opportunity. Everyone here who understands hospitality might probably know that better than I do. And finally, I think, actually 2 points. One, pure tech. I think the digital passport will happen. Various guys are taking a stab at it. There's Common Pass, which started doing that with United and a few other airlines. IATA is looking at it seriously, as is now SITA. I think we're going to have some version of that, especially as vaccinations grow. And that becomes our way to travel. Anyone who's traveled to Africa, especially to certain parts of Central and Southern Africa, is familiar with getting vaccinated here, the yellow fever shot, and carrying that strange kind of card we would carry and go. All of that gets digitized, and I think there could be an opportunity around that, but that's going to happen, for sure. I think the risk of not using that is far too great, and technology today is available for that. And finally, I think the non-tech opportunity is around and will stay, and I'm a firm believer in this. Despite having invested in an incredible holiday planning tool, it's called Inspirock. It's unbelievable. It plans your holiday in every part of the world, down to how long you need to visit a museum and transit. Despite that, in India, bespoke tour planning, bespoke trip planning, I think is here still for a long, long time, as are experiential tours. I think that's not going away. Especially to remote places, people still like the fact that they're guided. One of our common friends of many of us, like the kind of trips that Mandeep Singh Soin, Mandy does, those are the kind of trips I don't think they're going anywhere. They will take a long time to get replaced, and I think they'll coexist. And I just think that the middle is going to move very fast online. I'm going to stop here. I think there's many more eminent speakers, or much more eminent speakers to follow, and then hopefully we have time for Q&A. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Deep. Thank you very much.